Anthony Joshua is now deep in training camp for his much anticipated bout with Jarrel Miller. He says he's going to be Jarrel Miller's surgeon, he's going to reconstruct his face, and he is training to emulate that. He is trying to back up his words, and I think he will on June 1st. He's looking to go in there and put on the display. It is his first outing in America, so he is not going to want to disappoint, so he is training accordingly. In one of my previous videos, I stated that he is training slightly different for Jarrel Miller. He is upping the training and he is working on grappling. Now that is not a part of boxing, but still, as they get in close, Miller, like I said, is going to try and force an injury or something, I think. He will get desperate at some point, and he will do anything it takes to win. After all he has said, he wants to back up what he has said outside the ring, inside the ring. So he's going to do anything it takes to win and beat Anthony Joshua on June 1st. And he's going for the knockout. He said he's going to knock AJ out. So he's coming to fight. So AJ must be prepared, and he is preparing diligently. He's working on grappling, holding his opponents and walking them back. I've seen footage of him almost in a ruck, like rugby. He is trying to push his opponent back. They are fighting, and I think that is what he's expecting on June 1st. Because he can keep Miller at bay, he can keep him away with the jab. But if Miller manages to get past that, then what does he do? Because Miller can trade on the inside, he's a very good inside fighter. As I said before, he has shorter arms, and he will be able to do the better work on the inside, as Anthony Joshua is better at range. So he's working on that short range. Obviously, the mid-range will work for Miller and getting in close, and keeping Miller at bay will be Anthony Joshua's game, keeping him away and moving away. I think, to be honest, in the early rounds, Miller will be taking centre ring and Anthony Joshua will be moving around the outside, pop-shotting him, jabbing him, trying to keep him away. But I think as the fight wears on and Anthony Joshua gets a bit more eager to land, I think that's when Anthony Joshua will try and push him back. And to be honest, if he can't push Jarrel Miller back, then there is some trouble in there, to be honest, because Jarrel Miller is not going to go down easy. He's never been knocked down in his career, so Anthony Joshua has a tough task ahead of him. But if you can't see a way for the opponent to win, just as Tony Bellew against David Haye, you couldn't see a way Tony Bellew could win, yet he done it. So Anthony Joshua is preparing for Jarrel Miller, and I think he is preparing correctly also. It would be easy for him to overlook Jarrel Miller and see him as just a big fat chap that he can just bowl over, which I don't think he can. I think Jarrel Miller will go if he does hit him hard enough. Jarrel Miller will be there with him all the time that he can. All the time he has his senses about him, he will be there trying to win the fight. So Anthony Joshua cannot overlook him. That is the biggest downfall in fighters, when they overlook their opponents. So it is good to see that Anthony Joshua is tailoring his training in order to beat Jarrel Miller. I also noticed that Anthony Joshua is working on a lot of explosive movements, because he's going to have to hit him with the jab, possibly even double the jab up and then explode, try and land that right hand. That is what Anthony Joshua is going to be good at and what is going to win him the fight. So obviously these explosive movements will emulate that in the ring. Anthony Joshua has a very modern way of training. He does some of the old school stuff too, and that works, but a lot of new school stuff. Like I've seen him training in sand, trying to use his footwork, and that is great because obviously he will be slower in the sand and more lethargic. So when he gets out of the sand, he'll be a lot quicker and he will glide across the ring. And obviously tennis balls and things like that, trying to catch them, throw them back, and trying to dodge them as well. It's just good training. It keeps his reflexes sharp and gets him ready for dodging punches. If I'm honest, I think the worry with Anthony Joshua is also the weight. He needs to be around 17.5 stone. If he's above that, he's too slow, and I think he struggles, to be honest, when the lactic acid kicks in. That's usually when the muscles start to ache and you just feel lethargic and can't move around the ring as well as you should. You saw against Vladimir Klitschko after he gassed himself in the 5th round, when he was stiff-legged and struggling to move out the way of the punches. That is when the lactic acid kicks in, when you're so tired, and that is what Anthony Joshua has to avoid, and why he needs to be around 17 stone or 17.5 stone. That is his fighting weight. So keeping him down at that weight is probably vital into winning this fight, and winning most of his fights, to be honest. I don't think he really benefits from being at the weight fighting anyone. Obviously, he said against Carlos Takam they were fighting more on the chest, and probably the weight would work in his favour in that fight, but still, being 17.5 stone, he still has the power, he still has the speed and everything he needs to win the fight, so there's no reason why he shouldn't be at that weight. That is his fighting weight. Obviously, when there is a fighter like Jarrel Miller getting in Anthony Joshua's face, pushing up on him and trying to get under his skin, you always have the worry that Anthony Joshua is going to do something silly in the fight, or even in training, because if you train aggressively, you can have the risk of overtraining. I think Deontay Wilder done that against Tyson Fury. He was too light and he gassed in that fight. I wouldn't say that he trained angry, but still, he overtrained. That is a good example of overtraining, and Anthony Joshua must not do the same, because obviously Jarrel Miller will be there for the whole fight, despite his huge size, and he is overweight, but still, he manages to have a good cardio system, and he has a good engine, so he will be there for the whole fight. So Anthony Joshua must not overtrain. He must train correctly and calculated, which I hope and I think he will, because a lot of his training is monitored and is very scientific. So guys, what are your thoughts on this Anthony Joshua's training program? Here's a little bit of grappling that he's been doing, obviously to be strong on the inside against Jarrel Miller, and his slightly different training methods and approach to training. Please drop your thoughts in the comments below. Please like the video and subscribe for more content. Thank you guys.